Today's guest is the definition of getting it done. From flipping his first house to building entire apartment complexes, he's taken the real estate hustle to a new level. But it didn't start with a blueprint or a team. It started with grit, risk, and a whole lot of figuring it out along the way. Today we dive into how he got started, what it really takes to scale from flipping houses to ground up development, and the lessons he's learned along the way. All right, today's guest, one of my best friends, Scott Visner. He's in real estate. I thought it'd be a great idea to have him on, kind of share his experience and how he got into real estate and where he's at with that and where it's grown to. So I guess, Scott, you want to kind of just tell us about how you originally got into real estate and what made you, I guess, excited about it and keep going, pursuing it.
Well, first I want to say thank you for having me here, and I want to congratulate you on the new spot. I know it's been a long time coming, so happy to see it come together and happy to see you here.
Thank you. We're trying.
Well, it's getting there. It looks good. I'm happy. Well, I mean, it kind of happened by accident. As you know, we've known each other a very long time, and we both had a lot of different jobs growing up. And one thing, my mom always encouraged me to get your real estate license. Kept telling me to get my real estate license, but the jobs that we had at the time, we were making good money. We were content doing what we were doing. We're going to Havasu. We're going out on weekends. We're making good money for our age, and you didn't necessarily have that forward thought at the time. Actually, one of our mutual friends that he had a day job at the time, but she came to me and said, "Hey, I have a short sale you should buy." Short sale. And this was during, I think this was like 2010, 2011, coming right out of 2008 crash. I think we were near the bottom there and things were like starting to slightly pick up just a little bit. But yeah, it ended up being a small 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, those little blue ones by Home Depot over on Soledad.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was a short sale. Started off lowballing the bank, went back and forth for several months, back and forth, waiting for them to approve the short sale. And then it happened. So I got a conventional loan to buy the property, bought a lot of materials and stuff on credit cards, borrowed some money from family to do it, and did the flip, did the renovation.
So when you say conventional, that's like you were just buying the house to live in it long term. You don't have to get a hard money loan. You can just get a regular loan as if you were going to live in it.
On this particular house, yes, but not all of them are the case. Like this one, because it was a short sale. I mean, it was outdated, but it wasn't torn apart. It wasn't trash. There weren't holes in the wall. It was what's called habitable. So if it's habitable, a lot of times you can get a conventional loan on the property without having to go hard money. So I got a conventional loan from Logix. Like I said, I borrowed some money from family. I used credit cards to buy material. I found laborers and tradesmen from referrals, and basically I don't remember exactly how long that one took me. I think it was probably no more than like 30 or 60 days, because it was just countertops, refinishing the cabinets, paint, new flooring, did some stuff around the fireplace.
Just structural, maybe.
Yeah, total cosmetic rehab. I don't think I even did the bathrooms. I don't think I needed to do the bathrooms, but basically did that, put up for sale, flipped it, made some money, and just kept rolling since then. Just kept going and going, and progressively got into larger projects over time.
Yeah, which, I mean, now building apartment buildings, that's a huge task. I mean, just trying to, the logistics and permitting and cities and this, and I mean, especially building in California compared to anywhere else, there's so many hoops to jump through. I saw it on the power side when I was planning out our jobs and our pole sets and trying to get that permit for this crane, and we got to do it this hours, and we got to get this, we have to get the soil test, we have to get, there's so many hoops to jump through. So
too much regulation.
Yeah, that's a fight we have to deal with.
They can't get out of their own way. It's love-hate. I mean, they need housing, but they hate us as developers, so they make our job very hard.
So you're still flipping houses though, correct?
Yes. During COVID, I didn't trust the markets. I wasn't focused on residential. I focused on commercial and multifamily during that time. And recently, in the last, year or two, maybe longer, 2-3 years, got back into residential stuff. Because the other problem that's happening is obviously with the price increases that we saw during COVID. I mean, from your experience that, with people were overpaying for properties. There was so much competition out there. It was just difficult to find the same types of deals that you could find pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So in combination of that and also what we were seeing happen in the market, I didn't trust residential. So I didn't really, I kind of backed off that and just focused on what I had in front of me at the time, which was commercial multifamily.
Yeah. Which makes sense. It just got, I'm trying to buy houses and, long-term rentals, and it's just like every place I go on and whatever, just so many offers, and you got to try and outsmart everybody, and eventually suck some of the fun out of it and allocates too much time. So with now, I've noticed you recently started doing, like more flips in Newport Beach.
Yeah. Well, as a investor and developer, we can't compete with the end user, because end users can afford to pay more for the property because they're going to be in it long term. They're not so concerned on the equity right now, which is something that we look at. We have to make sure that there's enough equity in the project, enough room in the deal to be able to buy it, do the rehab, and then resell it for a profit. So that was another issue during COVID. There's so many people out there wanting to buy a house, like we can't compete with an end user.
Yeah, and with those rates, it was affordable for people to go above their pay grade type thing, versus now, when with the higher rates, people are getting a little bit more into what they can truly afford.
Right.
In my opinion, at least.
Or not afford at all.
Yeah.
Which is what we're saying because of rates.
Yeah. Well, with it being so competitive right now, how are you able to find properties or deals on houses to do it right now?
So that's actually one long-term point of success that I can say is relationships. Building relationships with the right people and the right agents and bring those opportunities to the table. So, a lot of my success over time has been because of relationships that I built over time with agents, letting them bring the deal to me and then letting them list it on the back end. So they're double ending it gives them incentive to continue to bring us projects. So it really, there's a lot of other creative ways out there that you hear from other investors and people, door knocking and sending flyers. I went through periods of doing that as well, but I kept coming back and finding success with the relationships that I built and the agents that I worked with over time.
Yeah, I think too is it's not only like you're making them money, but if you can make it good communication, clear, crisp, clean, make it like stress-free for them, they're going to want to go to you versus, because there's a bunch of investors out there, I'm sure they're willing to hey, you find a good listing, come to me. But if they're messy and they can't get it closed and they don't get communication, they don't show up on time or do those simple things.
Right.
We're at those years in our lives where it's like people that just do that, we're just like, I just can't. Sorry. Like, unfortunately, I don't have time for it. I'm too busy. So So I imagine you've kept those relationships strong.
I think it's important, especially in today's day and age. I am a strong believer in keeping your word. So if you tell someone you're going to do something, you should do it. And that's how I treat people, and that's what I expect from them. Is keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. And I've kept my promise on that end and kept, very, very good business relationships operating that way.
With flipping houses, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned, I guess?
There's so many. Honestly, one of the things that's most important is your schedule. You have to be able to execute your business plan in the time that you've planned for the project. Because if you can't do that, then it's going to cost you money at the end. But I think it's just having a clear plan going into the project, having your tradesmen lined up, everyone's scheduled, knowing what they're doing, so it's not kind of like a free for all, trying to figure out what you're doing. A lot of novice investors get in there and don't have a clear plan or strategy, or they're still trying to find tradesmen or workers going into the project, which then causes delays and problems during the project. But as long as they're going, I should retrace a little bit. The most important thing going into a project is your underwriting. You need to know that your numbers are what your numbers are, and that's where they're going to end up.
Yeah, what you were saying before, everything needs to punch out, especially, and it kind of links with what you were saying about timeline. Well, your loan costs, if your timeline's not there, then your numbers aren't going to crunch.
Yeah, everything costs more money, and then any delays you have cost more money. Any problems with tradesmen on the job not doing what they're supposed to do. I've had projects that I've gone through with bad contractors. I've had delays. I've had, other kinds of problems that you can't necessarily forecast until, sometimes you're in some of these projects and things pop up. You open up a wall and there's something there you didn't expect to be. Or, you're working on hillside and have more compaction requirements than you're used to on other projects, just all kinds of things.
There's always something you expect unexpected, and then the old saying, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that's like true in almost everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially with this, I've always had terrible experience with contractors. Not terrible, but man, most of them are, they don't follow through on their over promise, under deliver.
Yeah.
And then you just have to stay on top of them.
No, it is. I mean, it is difficult to find good contractors out there. There's a lot of bad contractors, and unfortunately, there's very few good contractors. And I've dealt with bad contractors. I've dealt with good contractors. You kind of need to. I mean, the really good contractors are expensive, so you kind of want to find not the cheapest, not the most expensive.
Medium,
the one in the middle that maybe you still have to babysit a lot and follow up with a lot, but. In some of these projects, you can't afford to pay, the highest costing contractors that are, the ones that are going to get the job done the way you want it done. It just doesn't pencil.
Yeah, saying that, have you ever taken the L's on houses? Like, it's a great learning curve, I'm sure, but have you ever lost money on them?
Of course, it's part of the game. I mean, it's like you're not going to win on every single one, but I mean, I'm fortunate enough to say I've only had a handful of projects that haven't gone the way that they were supposed to go.
You definitely learned what not to do.
Yeah, and honestly, the biggest contributing factor to that was bad partners. Partnering with the wrong people and going into the project with bad information. I tried to do as much due diligence as I could on the front end, but then when it comes time to the project and going through the project, sometimes you don't really find out who these people are or how they work until you're in business with them. And unfortunately, I had a couple projects with one partner that didn't go the way it was supposed to go. We had other projects that costs overran. We had to put in a new septic tank or end up repiping the whole house. Things that you didn't necessarily forecast. And like I said, sometimes you open up a wall and you see what the real problem is and you don't necessarily know what it is before. But that was a little earlier on in my career where after that, I kind of just went into these projects assuming that everything needed to be done. Yeah. All major systems, just assume that you have to replace the plumbing, you have to replace the heating, you have to replace the main sewer line, so that kind of helped insulate from surprise costs. Just, underwriting it that way and assuming that your costs are going to be X.
Yeah. Which is, everyone says the greatest way to learn is from a mistake. Obviously you're still doing it and doing it well, so they were good lessons to learn.
No, I have to agree with that 100%. Is going sometimes just diving head first into this stuff, like obviously as educated as you can be on it, but a lot of the experience I got was just by doing it. It's not necessarily something you can just pick up in a book and read or buy a course like you see on Instagram. Like some of this stuff you need to learn on your own and go through the processes on your own.
You mean you don't get rich overnight just by buying a course?
No. and yes, it does take money to invest in real estate. It might not be your money, but it's going to be someone's money. You can't do something with no money.
Yeah. It takes money to make money.
Yeah.
Nothing comes for free. Everything's earned, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's one thing that started my business. I expected, with a few years, and no, it's constant growth. It's constant struggle. There's a lot more good times than bad times, but there's just there's days where I'm like, this is awesome, we're unstoppable, and there's days where I'm going, I don't know if I'm gonna am I gonna be able to pay for my kids food to put in their mouth, and it's just the good with the bad. That's anything. But anyways, we'll get back on topic.
Well, it's like your business cash flow. You're always constantly battling cash flow. You have money going out, you have inventory coming in. It's the same thing with what I do. I have money going out to buy inventory and housing, and then it's a nonstop problem. You always need more capital. Yeah, it's like if you want to stay stagnant, stay where you're at. You can play it safe and be okay. But if you are trying to grow and do bigger and better things, then you're spending what you're making. You're reinvesting to hopefully calculated risk. Calculated risk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, speaking of growing, how did you go from flipping houses to building the whole apartment complexes?
So, I mean, going or being involved in real estate from the beginning, I knew I wanted to get in ground up development. That was always my goal. And what really changed it for me was having strategic partners throughout my career. I met some really good partners over the years that, we were doing things together, ended up doing larger projects, but it really came down to strategic partnerships, is people that have already done this that I then partnered with, or, my first development deal, kind of like what we were just talking about, I literally just dove headfirst into it. I knew I wanted to do ground up. I was looking for a property that I could develop. It was an underutilized lot that had 6 units on it, and I knew based on the zoning and some of the incentives we could take, we could get up to 28 units. So I bought the property, started entitling it right away, and then within a few months met my future partner on that, which we JV'd the deal and took it down together. And since then, we've built a handful of buildings since then.
So like that one, obviously getting into it was, you said it was finding a crucial partner, and he was experienced with building buildings. And he was resume.
He was an older guy. I thought he was in his 60s when I met him, but he was actually in his 70s. But he's been doing nothing but building buildings for 30 years. He's been through the '08 cycle. There were some other partners that I worked with in the early, like post 2013, 14, that they were older than me too. They were like in their 40s at time, maybe early 50s. And this partner that I JV'd with actually was their mentor in the early 2000 cycle, who I met. So me and him, hit it off. I brought things to the table. He brought things to the table. Ended up being a really strong partnership, and we're still building to this day. But I mean, that's really what I'd say catapulted my career, was these strategic partnerships over the years. I mean, one of my first partners that, I was doing fix and flip with, and he's involved in some of this stuff as well. But it's really, at least for me, in my case, the difference for me was the strategic partnerships. Meeting these people that have already been down that road, they've already done these things, they have the experience, and understanding that at the time I wanted to learn this as well, and I brought value to the table, and they brought value to the table, and ended up being a really good partnership.
How did you come upon that partnership? Because I mean, I know you didn't buy it from a course on Instagram or all the over promisers. We're not trying to hate on the course on Instagram, but there's way too many people just spreading FUD out there.
Don't buy anything unless they've actually done it. Make sure you vet them. If they're selling you a course and they have no experience, no background to show you, nothing, no business that they have, stay far away from that.
Yeah, we're not experts by any means, but we do have a little bit of experience and some success. We're able to be, our own bosses pretty much. So that is one thing we can at least say. But we're not experts. But going back to finding those relationships, how did you make those relationships?
So, I mean, starting out, like as my career progressed, obviously I built a reputation. People started hearing what I was doing. They asked about how they could be involved. I mean, we've done some deals together. They didn't necessarily, like some of the ones we did, the timeline was a little off, a little extended, but everyone got their money. They made some money on it. Going back to how not all projects go the way they're supposed to go. But just building my reputation over the years created curiosity among friends, family, word of mouth, people coming to me like, hey, let me know when the next deal is, hey, do you have any investment opportunities? Just like I said, going back to keeping your word and establishing a good reputation is what created the opportunity to have good partners and investors come to me. But now I'm out there soliciting investors because it's you need a never-ending supply of money to continue.
If you want to grow,
what you're doing,
you're trying to strike out more and more. So that's smart. Everyone's always looking for, not everyone, but a lot of people, they want a side hustle or to generate 2 to 3, sources of income. That's the best thing to have. Is, a couple of sources of income. So I get that point. So essentially, word of mouth is one of the best forms of making or meeting partners.
Well, word of mouth, and then actually, I went through a period of time where I wasn't really. I'm actually more of a private person. Like I don't like flashing my life out there.
It's changed back in our days. When we didn't have money, we were flashy. But now we're very reserved, I guess.
Yeah, and so I mean, it kind of. I went through a period of time and not posting anything on Instagram or posting very little on Instagram. And then I started sharing a little more. And then you realize, as we've seen over the last few years, maybe longer, that Instagram is now a better tool than a website. It's much easier to get information out there from Instagram. So I've been posting a lot more. I've been a little more public, which I'm still getting used to. It's a little uncomfortable for me.
Yeah,
but
it's adapt or die. You have to, or else you get left behind type thing.
Yeah,
it's essentially a search engine. It's not like social media anymore.
No, I mean it's a resume
on there. Yeah,
it's a visual resume of what you're doing. People can actually see what you're doing. You can talk to them. You can speak to them. They can ask questions. You can help. I mean, that's one of the things I enjoy about it, is helping some of these novice investors that, DM me and ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer questions for them, because I was there and we didn't have these tools growing up when we were younger. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have courses. There was not, some of the loan programs that exist out there for fix and flip and other investment projects were non-existent when I started. So there's a lot of tools and a lot of information out there now that people have access to that you and I and other business owners didn't necessarily have access to when we were starting.
Yeah, back when MySpace was around, the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
The internet took forever to do anything, and utilizing social media as a tool to find investors, partners, whatever it is. That's awesome.
Well, social media, like I said, word of mouth, reputation, I think it depends on, I was just having a phone conversation with a friend earlier today that, when you're doing raises for projects like this, a lot of these people, they're investing in you. They're not investing necessarily in the project. Yeah, they look at the project, they look at the underwriting, they look at the deck, they see, hey, does this fit my investment parameters? But at the end of the day, they're having trust in you, as the business owner or as the GP in the project, So that's why reputation matters and keeping your word matters, because if you don't have that, you don't have trust.
Yeah. And transparency too. Yeah. I think you're always pretty transparent with, like when stuff isn't going well, and stuff.
You have to
be. The fan is whatever.
Yeah, you just have to be.
Be transparent. Don't try and hide it. Don't be shady. Don't do anything. Just be like, hey, look, something came up. This happened. Blah, blah. Nothing to do about it. But we just have to deal with it, handle it, get it done, move forward.
Move on.
Just don't. It's like don't let the L's affect you, I guess.
No. Well, you're gonna have. If someone tells you you've never lost money on a project, then they weren't risking enough. You're in this. In the business. You're risking time. You're risking money every single day. So not every day is gonna go the way it's supposed to go. Like that's just part of the game. So you have to have that tolerance, but at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. Did you have more wins or more losses?
With I guess we can kind of go into what's your advice for people to get funded, whether they want just to start an investment property, whether it's a flip, vacation rental, long-term rental, your experiences. You said there's different avenues for as far as getting loans, the conventional hard money that everybody knows about. And then now you're doing, you also just started a fund, so you want to kind of touch on. There's just a lot of options out there. I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it when we were trying to buy a building. I wanted to buy a building versus rent, and he told me all about the SBA loans and how I can approve. And based on our track record with our business, we're pretty good profit margins, and I owe zero. I owe nothing. I don't finance anything. That's always how I've been. So I have zero loans, and I have money in the bank. And based on my bank statements every month and how well we were doing, I pre-qualified. They don't really pre-qualify you, but they just tell you you can buy a $2 million building, no problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I didn't know about it, and it's an easy way to get qualified through those SBA programs. He was the one that told me about it. He's like, hey, go fill it out, do what you got to do, and see how much. And that's one of the best avenues to go to get a decent rate. And they were like, no problem. It was super easy actually. So if you want to just kind of, let everyone know, I guess we can start with just a flipping house. Someone doesn't have a lot of capital up front. Would you recommend just going with a conventional loan, or?
If you can get one, but a lot of times, you're not. Obviously, the most money you're going to make is probably in the worst looking properties. Those have the most upside.
You're not going to get qualified.
So we're not seeing. Post 08 cycle, we were seeing a lot of houses that you could do what's called put lipstick on a pig. It's purely cosmetic. There weren't a ton of holes in the walls. The house was in general good condition. You could paint it. You could do, refinish the cabinets, do new countertops, do a lot of superficial cosmetic stuff and make money. But now it's like with inventory issues and the competition in the market, you're not necessarily finding projects like that. There are some still out there. I mean, we just bought one that's actually a purely cosmetic upgrade. The house is in great condition, just needs updating. But going back to someone starting out, your original question, how do they get funding? The easiest thing is friends and family. You go and ask friends and family first. Obviously, you have to be, a person that has a good reputation and a good character. Otherwise, your friends aren't going to lend you any money or anything like that. But I mean, that's the first thing is if you don't have the money yourself, you need to find someone that will invest for you. If you have a good business plan, someone will have faith in you. Someone will believe in you. I mean, that would be the easiest way to do it. I mean, there's guys out there that say open up credit cards, cash out the credit cards. I know people have done that.
It's too over leveraged, too much stress on your
yeah, but if you want to do it bad enough, you find a way to do it, and that might be the way to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that the easiest way to do it is just finding a strategic partner, a capital partner. There was a partner that I met over the years that once I established my reputation, we had a partnership where he would fund the entire project and I did all the sweat equity. I ran the project, I found the trades, the vendors, took the project from start to finish, and he was my capital partner. He was happy just sitting in his office collecting his returns.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that you can borrow money from in the same way.
One day we'll be at that. Hopefully, we'll be at that level.
That's where we're going.
Do the work we for.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good for that, and then for I guess in these bigger projects, that's a huge. I mean, your first apartment building was millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk the numbers really quick. I mean, I bought the property for around, I think it's like 2.2 million. Got a hard money loan. Rates were a lot lower back then. I actually got I think it was a 6.5% rate on hard money at the time.
The normal rate right now?
Yeah, which now hard money is like 10 to 12%. So that was a great deal. But same thing, there are some friends that were interested in what I was doing, said, hey, this is my plan. This is what I want to do. They believed in me. They put money in the project, funded the equity. I put my own money in, and then started the entitlements, found my JV partner. He put money into the deal as well. But then what we did to execute the project was get a construction loan. So a construction lender is what really funded the project. But, it took, I think $9.5 million loan to build the project. So, I mean, when I say there's risk, there's big risk, but there's also big reward. So it's just a combination of finding partners and people that believe in you that will give you their money essentially to invest in the project, and then having over time establishing relationships with good lenders. That's another thing is I use a lot of the same lenders. People that know me, we build a relationship. They can get creative. Sometimes they'll approve loans for a repeat investor as opposed to just starting over at a new bank, them saying no. So relationships are very important in this game.
Yeah. It's funny you touch on lenders. There's so many lenders out there, and so many I've just personally they'll lie to you. They'll say, oh no, you can't do that loan, you can't do this, oh you need this much down, oh you need that. That's just what I don't know, whatever they can do or how much they make money. You'll go to another one. It's competitive. You're not married to one lender, and if they can't do it, go to the next one. You should interview or have at least 3 anytime you buy a house. I was, new and green.
Shop.
Yeah, I was new and green to it, and I thought I had to
deal.
do whatever they had to say, and they come back. Lender writer comes back to you. We need this. We need that. We need your dog's hair sample. We need. Why did you do this? Why did you buy an ice cream on this day? It was really annoying. And some of them they treat you that well. And
don't buy a car during a refi or purchase.
Yeah, and don't deposit a bunch of cash randomly. And all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy with lenders, man. And as soon as you go, well, this one's going to do this for me at this rate, they're like, oh, well, all of a sudden now they can do it out of nowhere. You're like, but you told me you couldn't do that.
And I've been down the same road. We just this last deal that we're actually closing escrow today on. we had to switch lenders in the middle of escrow because the lender was not performing and they were jeopardizing our escrow. So we had to go and find a new lender to fund this deal, which actually they got it funded, I think, in like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
And got it done. But
they make us feel like we need them, which we do to get a loan.
Yeah.
But there's tons of lenders out there, so technically, like, they need us. You know, like there's a lot looking for work right now, or looking to get loans done because the buying market's not what it used to be. So don't fall for their lies, I guess. With my experience with buying houses, I've had numerous times. I've had halfway through escrow, I've had to switch lenders as well. Yeah. And they couldn't figure it out. Like where I own condos, one lender couldn't figure it out because of the mandatory country club where you have to you have to
association?
You have to be a member of the country club. That all of a sudden, like, I guess Fannie and Mae, they can't lend under that, so they have to do it's all about wording, and so the lender that promised me they could fund it couldn't get it funded. We're supposed to close in 10 days. I had to switch, and so those are like those hurdles, those bumps you run into, but then it's the more you learn about. So the newest thing you started is that fund, which I haven't really talked to you much about. Kind of give me the rundown on that.
Well, I mean, it goes back to, being in real estate. You need a never-ending supply of capital to continue doing these projects and to expand. So, I mean, that was another long-term goal that I had, was to get to some point to start a fund to accumulate, a large amount of capital and execute multiple projects. But what we're kind of doing is, I met a team is very important. So for a while, I couldn't execute on this idea until I found the right team. And what changed it was meeting a group of guys, one here locally, some back east, that have ran multi-billion-dollar national contracting companies. Some of the biggest builders in the country they've worked for. So they have the experience to run projects remotely and not necessarily be boots on the ground, because that's the hardest thing about going national and going to other markets, is finding people that you can trust and rely on in other markets without having to be there. Because if you don't have those people, then you're almost going there, or you need to have someone there that that can oversee the project and manage it. So for a while, I was just trying to find the right team and the right people, and it's still in the works. It's still evolving. But what the end goal is to build a pipeline of projects, and then eventually our business plan is to be able to demonstrate, this is what we have in the pipeline, this is what our future plans are. We want to be a national fund building in all the major markets across the US. But basically at that point, going to hedge funds and private equity groups and showing them, hey, this is our business plan, this is what we're going to do, give us millions of dollars type thing. But I'm starting small right now with friends and family or people from word of mouth that are finding out about it, and really just funding existing projects that I have in the pipeline and letting them share in on the returns from them. But it's I can only do so much myself to private funding, but to get to that next level and to amass hundreds and thousands of doors and build, hundreds of thousands of square feet, you need more capital. You need more money.
Yeah. I mean, you start small and you keep on going.
Yeah.
Just like you start with doing one door, now you're doing 30 to 40 doors each building, I think.
More than that. I think we have about a little over 100 units under construction right now. Yeah. That's what we're working on.
That's pretty cool. So that fund, people invest in it, and then every year a certain percentage of return based on how profitable the fund is.
Well, they eventually be different tiers. So a lot of development projects, you're putting your money in, and the returns are not generated until the project's completed, until it's sold. Everything is structured as build and sell. So it's an 18, 24 month, 30 month, 36 month timeline to get it done, to build it, to stabilize it, to then sell it. So on development projects, a lot of time the money's coming back once the asset is disposed of. Okay. But there's other plans. I want to start a hard money fund, which would then generate monthly or quarterly returns, like what you're talking about. I want to also accumulate buy and hold properties, which some of these ones that we develop may be, like one of the ones I'm doing right now. I had planned on keeping that, but there's some things in the neighborhood that's kind of changing my mind. But no, it's going to be a mix. We're going to have development projects that have large returns when the project's done. We're going to have buy and hold projects that will spit off, monthly or quarterly returns. And then, another thing eventually will be like a hard money debt fund where we're funding projects and, being paid interest payments that then will get returned to the investors.
Those are good environment, right? Interest
Yeah.
loans, our money loans are pretty good. And
Yeah.
a lot of, there's a lot of people out there flipping, and most of them are utilizing our money loans.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I watch all those shows on HGTV. It's crazy how much they pay in interest. Like they pay more in interest than they make in profit on a lot of these.
Yeah, sometimes it's true. That's why it's important, like I said earlier on, going into the deal and underwriting it properly and making sure you're forecasting all those costs.
I guess with all these ups and downs, what keeps you motivated? Just with the whole real estate game and all the battles you face.
I think that's more of a personal trait I learned over time. I grew up in a middle-class family. Both parents worked. Both had very strong work ethic. There's things that, my mom made me feel that I never did enough. I was never good enough at certain things. It was very hard on me. So I think that instilled principles to keep me driven. I started, I think the first job, I shouldn't say job, but entrepreneurial job was selling eggs. Because I had chickens when I was younger. I stand on the corner and sell eggs to neighbors and stuff and make money from doing that. And then I got a volunteer job at the motorcycle shop down the street. I'd volunteer at, and I was cleaning a friend's office. So I started like the entrepreneurial and working very early on in my life. And so that created drive and motivation. And so you can't force yourself to do something you don't want to do. You have to want to do it. You have to be passionate about it. And I'm truly passionate about what I would do. Like I truly enjoy it. But like I said, that comes from inside. Like I'm driven inside. I wake up and I want to work. I wake up, I want to build. Like I really, really enjoy what I do. And that's part of, I think, being successful is doing something that you're truly passionate about and that you enjoy, because then it's not work. It's not a chore. I mean, there's definitely days like we were talking about earlier, that are work, that aren't going the way you think they're going to go. And you don't necessarily want to work that day, and you might get discouraged and stressed out. But, if you believe in what you're doing and you're passionate about what you're doing, that's going to keep you driven and keep you motivated. And so at the end of the day, it comes back to truly enjoying what I do. I truly, truly enjoy it and I'm passionate about it.
Yeah. I was, the other day, I was thinking just went on vacation, and I don't get as excited to go on vacations anymore because it's like every day is a vacation when you like work for yourself and what you like to do.
Yeah.
Like,
in a sense.
I don't hate my, after you come back from vacation, you're like kind of depressed or sad. Like, I got to wake up early and do traffic and I got to work and I'm probably going to work at 24 tomorrow and whatever. And this and that. Like, I don't have that when I go home. Like, I'm happy to go home and I'm happy to go to work. And it's just totally, it's changed since since I made a leap to be self-employed, but it's like I never want to go back to not being self-employed.
That was one of my biggest motivators when I had my corporate job years ago. Was literally being on the freeway in traffic and looking around at me and seeing how miserable all these people look in their car driving to work. I would tell myself, I'm like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be doing this for 30 years. I don't want to be commuting. I want freedom of choice. And that's, when people talk about having money or being successful, like, it's not about the money to me. Like, the money is a tool that provides you the freedom to do what you want to do. So it's not necessarily having a dollar amount or how many dollars in my account or in your account. It's about the time that you are given now because of that money. So it's just the freedom to choose how you want to live your life on a day-to-day basis. And that's what's important.
Yeah. You can manage your time and manage your day accordingly.
Yeah.
You can do whatever. You can go work from here. You can go work from there. I want to go to lunch at this time. I want to go to the gym at this time.
And just one thing I want to say to people out there is this is not something that happens overnight. There's a lot of promises and things people tell you on social media that you'll see, and it does not happen overnight. Yeah, there are things out there. Sometimes people get lucky on a shit coin or crypto or a stock or whatever. Yeah, that happens. But the majority of what you see from these business owners like Andy Frisella that built First Form, it's a long process. You have to have patience. You have to stay dedicated. You have to have discipline to wake up each day and put the time in and the work in, and then you reap the rewards. But it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, I mean, even when I started, I was working 80 or 100-hour work weeks. I was coming from 24s, and I was fulfilling orders out of my garage after a 24-hour shift. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
And I had my girlfriend take him to the post office in the morning. And there was years of that, and there was years of staying up late, talking with manufacturers and designing this and doing that. So you have to do
time zones.
Yeah, you have to put in the work way ahead of time. But eventually, if you just keep on grinding, eventually it pays off. And almost 2 years ago, I got to, as I say, retire. But stop doing the utility work and just work full time for myself. And it's awesome. It's great.
That's exactly what I did. I had a day job for a very long time, and I couldn't, I was going to houses before work. I was going to houses after work. I was going on the weekends. I was working at night. I mean, it took years before I could step away from a day job and just do it full time. So you have to have the patience, you have to have the dedication, you have to have the discipline. But if you stick to it and you focus on it, you'll get to where you want to be.
They say surround yourself with motivated people who are driven and not going to tire you down or wear you down. Well, I looked at 3 of my best friends, you, Steve, and Rob, they were all self-employed. They all didn't work for, the man, and they weren't doing the 9-to-5 grind. And I was still humping away at the utilities. I was making great money, and I did like it. Yeah. But,
it's a good job. Yes. Don't talk too much shit on it.
No, I'm not talking shit about it. I love it. I miss it sometimes. Sometimes I wish I could take a call out again. I miss the guys. I miss the camaraderie. And obviously it was great pay. I miss those bonus checks. I miss those storm checks. And I miss all that stuff. But at the same time, having to not decide what I want to, like someone else is telling me, you're going to report, you will report, and I have to sit in traffic every single day. I work at 24, I'm driving home at 5 in the morning and be like, I'm on the freeway just dozing off, and then you go home, you maybe sleep 3 hours. So I don't miss that, especially now with being a parent. It is awesome being able to put my kids to sleep every night, wake up with them every morning. One of my favorite things to do, I wake up early and I go get my workout in before the girls get up, and I come home and I get to wake them up. It's like my favorite thing is waking the girls up. And being able to do that, and I've been doing it, for the last 2 years.
It's the freedom. It's the freedom to choose is what matters, and what's important.
That to keep you motivated is good. Keep on doing those projects so you can do all that stuff.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice someone ever gave you, or you would give to some listeners, I guess?
I mean, honestly, it drove me crazy at the time because I didn't want to. It was being patient. You need to be patient. Put in the time to get to where you want to be. We just touched on it. It takes time, so you have to have patience. But what I really like, what I heard recently was aggressive patience. I like that term, aggressive patience. Is you're being aggressive, you're being driven, you're focusing on where you want to be, but at the same time, you're realizing that it's going to take time. So there is an aspect of patience that you have to have, but just learn what you're good at and focus on that. Don't try to do too many different things. You see a lot of people out here doing 10 different things. I have this e-com, I have this real estate thing, I have this over there, I have that, blah, 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 whatever. But find what you're passionate about and go all in on that. And you go all in on it for long enough, you're going to get to where you want to be, and you're going to turn it into something great. So the discipline is important, the patience is important, and then obviously, just being passionate about it. You want to be passionate about what you do, because then it won't feel like work. Yeah,
that's true. Become a professional at one thing before you try and move on to the next thing. Too many people are trying to spread out.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Even with me, I've thought about other business ventures or whatever, and until I hone in and really get to where I want it to be,
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time. I allocate my time. Somebody asked me the other day, "Are you playing a lot of golf?" I tried to say golf a few years ago, and I'm like, I played once this year. I'm just, my main focus is
there's time for that.
Yeah,
you have time.
Yeah, later in life, like the main focus right now is growing my business and being a good dad.
Yeah.
Like those are like the two priorities. Like the hobbies and all that stuff can wait. And yeah, it's like my focus is work, but like I said, like we were saying before, I love what I do and I love my job. And so it's not really work to me.
Right.
You know, I love doing this stuff. And
yeah, so that makes all the difference. Because if you enjoy what you're doing, you're gonna do it. It's not gonna be hard.
Yeah.
You'll have hard days, but at the end of the week, you know, you look back and there's reward.
Oh yeah. Plenty of hard days.
Yeah.
A lot more good than bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if anyone wants to find out more about you and invest in your fund, or reach out with any questions, I mean, because I'm sure you're more than willing to give advice, or just, whatever. Where do they find you?
Instagram is Real Estate by Scott. There's a link to my website on there as well. So if you guys have any interest, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man.